Hey guys, hope you're having a good weekend. In this video, we're going to dive into some of the things that I'm seeing in the Arctic that are happening and why I think that a lot of people may be giving up on winter a little too prematurely. You know, I spent some time in television many years ago, and especially here on YouTube, I see it. It's more and more prevalent. People always are they're stuck in the pattern. They say it's not going to change. And today we're going to look at the changes that I'm seeing. Not just in the upper levels, we're going to look to Europe. We're going to really dig into some of the details because sometimes you can look to Europe and get some ideas of what's going on. We're also starting to see some blocking set up across Greenland. Now, before I lose you, that's the thing too. A lot of people on these YouTube videos say, I don't even know what you're talking about. Why does it even matter? And then you got the other side of the coin for the people saying, why didn't you look at the MGO? Why didn't we go to the NAO? Why didn't we talk about the teleconnections? So how can we make it not so boring that you zone out? But you want to know if winter's coming. What's it going to look like? So let's just dive into what I think is happening right now. Well, really what is happening right now. This is a fact. This is where we are today. Huge upper low still spinning here across Colorado. That's going to move north as we head into Sunday. And it's going to weaken too as it does so. No snow expected with this once it moves out of Colorado. Maybe a few flakes on the northwest side of it, but nothing like what we saw here. Take a look at these numbers. I mean, these were impressive. Into Colorado, northeast of Fort Garland, 37 inches of snow. Some of these areas got close to 4 feet of snow. Even just south of Colorado Springs, we got 2 feet of snow. Down into New Mexico, we got quite a bit of snow here too. I saw that Las Vegas, New Mexico picked up about 2 feet. So a wild storm, not completely unprecedented. We had another one kind of like this back in 2006 and some back in the 70s and 80s, but pretty wild to see. Now, as we move into Sunday and Monday, our storm track remains to the north. Our jet stream still screaming into the west, really strong across parts of Canada. I want you to note where that was and then where it's going to be as we head into next week. A lot further to the south. So now we're looking at a jet stream that's more amplified, meaning it's got the troughs and the ridges here kind of digging in. And that continues into next week. So we're definitely seeing a pattern change, not what we've seen lately. And I think this is something that's going to happen this coming week. It doesn't mean you're going to get cold this week. It just means we're starting to set things up to get colder. I don't think it's just going to be like we bomb into winter overnight, but we're definitely seeing some differences here heading into next weekend too. A big trough digging into the west. I don't know that this happens. Some ridging here in the east, but we're also starting to see this much further to the south versus up here into Canada. So that is a big difference. Let's look at the upper level pattern too. This is what I want to show you because I think this is going to change things. Here's where we are now. I want to show you over here into Europe. Pay attention to Europe. Pay attention to what's happening in Greenland. That blocking pattern is going to set up all the way to the North Pole, which is very interesting too here to look at. So if this happens by next weekend, if we get a strong blocking pattern here, normally that displaces the cold. It's got to go somewhere. It's not super cold across the Arctic just yet, but we're getting there. But this may change things as we head into, say, the 20th, 21st, and the 22nd. Take a look at what's happening in Europe. Usually what happens in Europe as a result of that blocking across Greenland eventually starts to kind of impact what's happening across North America. So Greenland to the west here. So if you have your ridge here, now you've got a trough digging into Europe, pulling in a lot of cold air. But that ridge too, that ridge that's back to the west over Greenland, again, displacing some of that cold air that's going to be building here. Now, anything over the gray here, I should say below the gray, that's below 0 Fahrenheit. A lot of cold air building across Greenland, across the Northwest Territories and Alaska. But I want to move really far ahead and take you out. Look how cold this is starting to get. This is almost like the dam that's building. In other words, it's almost like pulling the arrow back. You're just pulling it back, pulling it back, pulling it back. It's getting colder and colder and colder. And while we will see some of that move south, I think sometime around the 20th to the 21st, the real cold air is still bottled up here. Now, one thing to keep in mind too, that here across Alaska, there's still some really thin ice that's been forming here. I'm going to show you kind of how things have evolved over the last couple of weeks. The orange is your ice pack. The blue is the snow across over here is Siberia, Alaska, Canada, and Europe over in here. This is where we were just a few weeks ago. Watch this as we put it into motion. Notice how that ice pack's certainly expanding. We're getting more snow across North America too, but we've still got open water here. So until that fills in right here, it's going to have a hard time at least pulling some of that cold air across from Siberia. And some of the coldest air that affects North America originates across Siberia. It's definitely getting colder here, well below 0 in these places. But notice just north of Alaska, still some warmer water here. but we're definitely getting colder here. The pump is being primed, so to speak. Let's talk about the short term, though, because that may be what you're wondering about, too. As we head through Saturday into Sunday, we've got this area of low pressure, that's upper low, moving toward the Great Lakes. This is going to bring some rain showers to the East Coast as we head into Sunday. Now, as we head into Monday, another storm system slams into the Pacific Northwest. This is going to bring a lot of snow to the Cascades, eventually into the Intermountain West, too. And then across the east, high pressure building in. This is going to bring some colder weather to the northeast. There could be some snow showers into the Adirondacks, the Greenland White Mountains, and then cooler weather here into the northeast, warmer weather persisting across the south. The snow and the rain continue across the Pacific Northwest as our atmospheric river sets up here across the east. Another weak system. Now, this will be interesting to watch by the end of the week. We may actually be cold enough across parts of northern New England, northern parts of New York, into the Adirondacks, the Green and White Mountains again, for some snow heading into Thursday and Friday, even into parts of Maine. I'm not completely sold on that, and this is about the point in time when I don't know that I'm completely sold on anything past this point. But I've showed you how the upper pattern is going to start to change. I want to show you how the GFS is picking things up and what it's sort of hinting at. Now, don't get caught up in any particular snowstorm that you see, but the difference is that we are seeing systems that are much further to the south compared to what we're seeing now. A couple of days ago, it looked like this cold shot of air here in the northeast would penetrate further to the south. It doesn't look like that's going to happen. It looks like it's going to be more of a northeasterly shot of cold air. But then again, as we move toward now the 21st and 22nd, I'm not going to sit here and tell you this is the snowstorm that we're going to see. This is going to happen. This is the GFS from last night. A little bit of a different situation. I'm going to take you back to yesterday's run of the GFS at about this time. It's still showing that penetration of cold air, right? So sometime around the 21st, 22nd, I know it feels like it keeps just getting pushed out further and further. It makes sense if you think about it. That's about the time as we go back and look at this upper pattern, even here on the European, we're starting to see some blocking take place here across Greenland. And that would mean cold into Europe, and a few days later, we start to get cold in the east. Maybe it happens. I'm not going to hold my breath, but we're definitely seeing a different storm pattern as we head toward the middle and the end of November, at least closer to the end of November. I got to tell you about the tropics, though. Rafael, this is a wild storm here across the Gulf of Mexico. Just expect it to meander here and just disintegrate over the next couple of days. Still a tropical storm at this point. The model data is just clustering this thing here and then eventually taking what's left of it off to the south. At least there's some agreement now as to where this monster goes. And I say monster not because it's this monster hurricane. It's just more of a Frankenstein, I guess. Just getting raggedly torn apart. Okay, here's the rain as we head into Sunday. We're definitely going to start to get wet here into the Ohio Valley. Early Sunday morning, you'll see the rain now moving into places like Pittsburgh, into D.C., down into Atlanta. Some moisture starting to feed in here off the Atlantic, so that may enhance some of the showers across Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina. But a good shield of rain looks like we'll set up heading into Sunday afternoon and Sunday evening here across Pennsylvania, New Jersey, over to New York City, into southern New England. And then as we head into Monday, all that heavy rain starts to push off to the east, maybe a few showers lingering here, and then a few showers start to move back into Michigan with our next system as we head into Monday morning into Monday afternoon. Further to the west, this is where the snow has been falling, again across Colorado, Wyoming, a little bit of snow as we move into Saturday night and Sunday, but too warm for snow, though, as the system moves toward the Great Lakes, with the rain eventually moving out here, and then high pressure building in, some slightly cooler air behind this. Certainly not cold, but a little bit cooler. And then more snow moving into the west here across Colorado. Some of that snow could really start to pile up because we're going to see round after round of snow, not just into Colorado, but mostly across the Pacific Northwest, the Cascades. We may start to push some of that snow down into the Sierra as we move toward next weekend. This could be our first big snow, I think, for the Sierra, and that would likely push inland into the Intermountain West as well. And this looks to be a pretty decent trough digging into Southern California, maybe bringing some rain here. Again, that's pretty far out. We're talking about next weekend on that. Temperature-wise, across the Northeast, a cold start on Sunday morning with temperatures in the 20s and 30s, seasonably cold, I should say, with 30s and 40s here down into the mid-Atlantic, but still mild here across the Mississippi River Valley, up through places like Indianapolis, Cincinnati. We're probably only going to drop back into the upper 50s to low 60s. That warm air surging north as we head into Sunday out ahead of that next system. We'll see quite a bit of rain, though, on Sunday. And some cooler weather here. That would likely be just because of the rain here east of the Appalachians. Some cooler air tries to drop into parts of the upper Midwest, also into the Great Lakes as we move into Tuesday. It looks like a quick shot of cold air, at least for the Northeast as we head into the middle part of the week. And then by the weekend, temperatures start to warm up again across the South. How about this? 70s and 80s. Across the West on Sunday, look at this cold air here across eastern Colorado, parts of New Mexico. That's that snowpack that we're seeing here. Pretty warm though out ahead of the mountains here on the east side, I should say. Some downsloping flow. Got temperatures here up into the 50s and 60s. That doesn't stick around too long. In fact, some colder air starts to move into places like Alberta, down into Montana. Not super cold. I mean, right? This is the place where you look at like Cut Bank where we get like well below zero. So it's not like super cold here. If anything, I would just say kind of average. And then once we move into next weekend, this could be some pretty chilly air though. We could see temperatures in the teens and maybe even single digits in the mountains. So some much colder air, I think, is on the way. It may take some time. It's not winter yet, so don't give up. See you next time.